Oh, yes, Mr. Colin Ross Jones, Carl Martinho Munson here. We've got a very special guest this morning. How excited are you today, Colin Ross Jones, and how are you?
I'm very interested to listen to everything
Hello,
he
Colin.
says.
All right, okay, excellent. How are you, by the way, before we start talking with Christopher?
I'm okay, but I seem to be cutting in and out for some reason. I think I might change my
We can hear you loud and clear. There is a
location.
little bit of delay on your... Oh,
Well,
really?
in that case, then
Okay.
I'll change my location. Get a better connection.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm going to give Christopher a round of applause and bring him onto the screen while Colin is changing his location. Christopher, how are you this morning? Hola, bon dia.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear, and typically chaotic this morning on the Good Morning Portugal show. You've brought quite the atmosphere with you this morning. Lovely to feature a little bit of your Racing Fury Academy. Before we get started, and before I think Colin's gone to change his underwear, actually. He's so excited about taking how are you this morning, Christopher? And where are you?
I mean, I'm really hungry because now I want to eat about 10,000 bifanas of all kinds of bifanas with jumdu sauce and everything today. This was quite a take. Never seen this before.
Yeah. and some things are best left alone. I like the sound of Pete's €3 for a bottle of beer and a bifana in central Portugal, right? A tenner or 12 quid for a bifana in London. You'd be crying while you're eating that, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Well, I think, it's one of those things when you live there, like when I was studying in London for a couple of years, I was there for about 4 years. If I ever went to those Portuguese restaurants in Stockwell, which I did, because we go there to watch, Benfica Sporting or something, Benfica Porto, we'd all go there. Believe me, it was, having a bitoque in London was, I would literally cry. I'm not kidding you. I would cry. So, those good bifanas, at least the more Portuguese ones. I mean, for sure, I'm sure anyone who loves Portugal and lives in the UK has any opportunity of having anything with that Portuguese smell, even if it's a pastel de nata, I'm sure everyone loves it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just those prices, isn't it? You've got the tears of nostalgia and connection to the culture, and then the tears of having to part with tons of cash in London for something you're used to paying a lot less for. Right, Colin, are you comfortable? Is your location better now? Doesn't seem like. Is he frozen, Christopher?
I think he's frozen.
He's just looking into the camera very wisely.
Very intense. That's very intense. Yeah.
Intense. I don't know what's going on with him. And how are you this morning? In Cascais, I take it. How are things over there?
In Cascais. I mean, how's the weather there, Carl Martinho Munson? Because here it's looking pretty miserable today.
Well, it's a bit foggy for the last 3 days, and there's a kind of sadness. You know what it's like here. A lot of Cascais folk and Portuguese people come to San Martinho for their holidays here, and I think things are drawing to a close. We're 28th of August. People know, don't they? We're going back to work. We're going back to school, and the weather's kind of suiting that. It's not as hot as it's been. It's slightly, almost drizzly, as things draw to a close for the holiday season here.
True. I think it's going to rain here today. And how are the waves on the beach in San Martinho the other day?
There was quite the swell a couple of days ago, and we not much happens here. I mean, we get a lot of tourists in the summer, but not a lot happens here, and that's why we like it. And it was so exciting that there were some waves that me and Mrs. M got in the car to go and take a look. How quiet a life do you have to go get in the car and have a look at the waves? But got some great footage. It was quite dramatic, actually.
Very cool. That's proper adrenaline. As long as you're not actually like standing there.
We were watching from a safe distance.
Okay.
But yeah, that's as exciting as it gets here. Nothing to compare to your world of motor racing. I think you've even got fans here this morning who've come to say hi.
We actually have someone here from the academy, Freddie de Montaña. There you go.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan.
Right at the time, proper time. So he's my pretty much partner in this new project that we've launched at the beginning of the year.
Right.
And I mean, it's basically Fred's an aspiring racing driver,
Cool.
and already an entrepreneur at the tender age of 15 years of age. So he's a very, very, very clever person that one day you'll want to bring along to speak to about his his business endeavors already going on in Portugal at such a young age. And one of them is this race academy that we have, formed together this year. And the reason why, which is why obviously the topic today is the racing in Portugal, was precisely because, I've been racing in Portugal on and off, but for the good part of 30 years now. And there was always let's say, a gap in the market in terms of people being able to, like you have in the UK. In the UK, it's more than common that you can go and rent from a go-kart to a Formula car to almost anything in the UK, and you can rent them and you can do, track days, and you can go on numerous tracks in the UK. As you guys all know, there's dozens of tracks in the UK: Snetterton, Alton, Anglesey, Brands Hatch, Silverstone, goes on and on. And, for as little as £100, you can do some laps in racing cars in the UK. And that type of experience never existed in Portugal. So I thought a few years ago that we needed that, because I had basically done a deal with one of my teams that I've been racing with for many, many years. And I was like, well, look, guys, I think that it comes to the point where now you should rent me the go-kart. It's a professional go-kart, but that you should rent it to me. I don't need to buy it, just, rent it. And they had never really thought of that concept. So they started to rent me the go-kart. And I realized, you know what, I'm just going to create an academy, speak to various people in the market. We're talking about from, racing simulators, obviously go-karts. We're actually going to be launching now for the international schools in October. We're going to be launching a championship for kids from all the international schools in Portugal to be able to race against each other, not in the pro carts, but in the more sophisticated of the amateur carts. But that is for them to have a launch pad. We already have quite a few students now with us from various schools that are practicing in the professional carts, some that want to move to the formulas, where I'm racing at the moment, as you know. And that's basically one of those, So what we've gone and done, and I'm not saying that we're completely the only people in Portugal that do this, because I'll be honest, we're also having some copycats very quickly coming in. The difference is also the price.
Sure. Yeah.
We've negotiated good prices, and we are the cheapest by far in Portugal for pretty much any category. We've negotiated that people can rent anything up to, you want to rent an Aston Martin endurance supercar, you can rent one. You want to rent a Porsche Super Cup, they're actually racing this weekend in Estoril, by the way. If any of you live close by to the Estoril track, you will have the Porsche Super Cup Brazil are going to be racing this weekend in Estoril. That's why it's quite noisy these last few days. But if you want to rent one of those cars, we make all that happen. And that was just basically for us to just provide this experience to people, because in Portugal, it really, to be honest, really wasn't possible. Unless you bought your own car, you didn't really have much of a chance to drive. So we just wanted to create that opportunity.
That is superb. Is it not, Colin? Are you sitting comfortably now, and can we hear you?
I'm actually lying on my bed. It was the only place where I could get a connection.
That's what you tell all the girls, isn't it? Right.
Certainly is.
Yes. Right. So this is music to your ears, is it not, Colin? You are.
Excellent. Because
racing.
I know.
Thing here.
I know from personal experience of trying to get even a track day. You go on the websites, and the websites are pretty poor. Estoril circuit kept sending me to some club that used the circuit for track days, but there was no actual track days that the circuit were supplying. So you had to be a member of this certain club, and I don't know if that's still the case, Christopher. Good morning, by the way.
Good morning, Colin. Great to meet you. Obviously, been catching up on your videos of late. Love your Toyota GR. That's a nippy pocket rocket, that's for sure. A very nippy pocket rocket, actually. Yeah. So that's a good one.
Carl will tell you it's very slow, isn't it, Carl?
Not when you're driving it, Colin. You have a gift. You have a gift for taking it to its limits, I think. But so you haven't met before, have you two?
No.
Portugal. Oh, okay. So it's a proper sort of motor racing love in here, and
No.
I'm in no way as big a fan, obviously, as you two are. So, Colin, over to you to ask Christopher a few questions while I just watch, basically.
Well, the first thing is that I'm more interested in initially how you've been in Portugal all your driving life. Yes.
Yes, pretty much. I mean,
Yep.
I started by some weird irony, I started my racing experience in Germany, but that was just a one-off situation. When I was in tennis camp in Germany, they took us to go karting, and then I realized I was actually so much better at that than tennis. I was like, well, enough of tennis. I'm going to go and race. And I did that literally the month I got back to Portugal. I was racing in a championship already. So anyway, yes, of course, it's always been in Portugal. Yeah, all the way back since 1995. Yeah.
So you're another Lance Stroll.
Well, I wish I had as much money as his dad does. That would be great. then I would have probably moved all the way to Formula One. To be honest,
Yes.
I was definitely on the way to being a professional racing driver. And to be honest, a lot of people don't have the same exact opportunity as people like Lance Stroll.
No.
And I will be fair to say that even though I was very privileged to be able to race. And it's fair to say, 1 year as young as I was when I started racing, of course, my father was the main, let's say, sponsor. In Portuguese, we call it patrocínio because the sponsor is patrocínio. And, we call it patrocínio in terms of father sponsor. So, but of course, then, we have to prioritize, your academic life and so on. So I did stop for a number of years, and then I got back about 10 years later in 2004. About 9 years later, I got back in 2004. But yeah, it's exactly that. So I started racing here. Of course, it's not, we all know that it's not a very cheap sport. But we've gone out of our way to really make it one of the more accessible. Not in terms of sports. Of course, football is definitely cheaper. Ping pong is definitely going to be cheaper than motor racing. But
and Malia down at the local club. Yeah.
Right, exactly. But the truth is, and I know that this subject had to do, and you were saying that we would talk about, Formula One coming back to Portugal, and there's a lot of stuff to talk about. The truth is, moving a bit away from this whole academy that we're talking about, the truth is that, Portugal is actually, in all fairness, there's a lot of history about Portugal. I'm going to give you a small example, everyone, about history about Portugal. So, as you know, we have Ferrari and we have Lamborghini. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie about Ferrari versus Lamborghini, or the movie that's called Lamborghini. Was a movie that was made a few years ago and depicted the kind of rivalry. Lamborghini made tractors, but he owned a lot of Ferraris. He thought they were all rubbish in terms of their clutch and their gearbox. And he went and faced Enzo Ferrari one day, and he said, "Look, why don't we partner together so I can help you make better cars?" And Enzo told him to get stuffed, and Lamborghini decided, you know what, I'll make my own car. And then came this famous, beautiful, amazing brand called Lamborghini. Obviously now belongs to the Volkswagen Group, but they made absolutely stunning cars. And I think it was 1956. In 1956, and it's a true story, totally true story. In 1956, basically, Mr. Lamborghini, looked at the stats of sales of global sales, and he went up to his marketing guy or sales guy, and he's like, what is this number? What is this city in the world which has the second largest amount of sales? And that city was called Oporto, or as we know, Porto. So Porto was in the mid-50s the number 2 city with the highest sales of Lamborghini in that particular year. And that just shows you. And the truth is, the north of Portugal, even more than the south, but the north of Portugal has always been a mecca for sports cars because we have huge textile industries in the north since going way back to the 50s. And we had extremely wealthy factory owners. I mean, extreme wealth. Even today, that's probably another topic for another conversation one day. But the amount of industry we have in Porto, that you guys would be a bit flabbergasted in terms of how many world companies are known where all their production is actually sourced out of the north of Portugal. So there's always been a lot of wealth there. So there's a lot of a classic car community in Porto, and Lamborghini, there you go, was one of the top sales there. But that also maybe explains to you guys why, for example, the Portuguese rally, the Rally of Portugal, is even today considered one of the top three. You got the Monte Carlo rally, and you pretty much got the Portuguese rally. And in terms of the actual historic prestige, they really rate as the highest, because we always used to have those crazy fans, literally on top of the cars. I don't know if you've ever seen those absolute nutcase videos.
Yes.
Yeah, where we would,
it's the motor racing equivalent of Obidos Castle, isn't it? Basically, where it's like
pretty much.
If you want to stand in the middle of the road when the cars come past, feel free. It's like Portuguese health and safety.
Oh, completely. Good. Well, yeah, Portuguese health and safety. At least that's come a long way. Because my God, back in the day, there was even a video I was literally actually seeing just the other day of the fact that the audience would get so close to these cars that there was one race, and they filmed it. It's there. There were 2 fingers found in the air intake of one of the rally cars, because someone had gotten so close to the car that they wanted to touch it, that it took off their 2 fingers. Can you believe it? Only in Portugal, I tell you that, back in the day.
Yes. And that guy proudly to this day says, "Yeah, that was the rally back in."
They probably do.
Yes.
I'm sure they're very chuffed to brag about that, for sure. And that's our heritage. The truth is, Portugal has enormous heritage. I mean, we have to realize that the first Grand Prix, people will think about Estoril, and of course we have the Algarve, and we'll get into the Algarve. We're having some people here making some very good questions about the Algarve here. The truth is, our first Grand Prix, which Stirling Moss won in Monsanto. So Monsanto was an F1 racing course, and actually there's parts around. We have the National Stadium. I don't know if you know, our National Stadium is a copy of Hitler's Berlin Stadium, because our dictator Salazar wanted the exact same stadium as the 1936 Olympic Stadium. So he basically made the exact same stadium, just slightly smaller. But around that stadium was the Portuguese Grand Prix. And you can go on YouTube and you can find it, put 1950 or 1951 or 1950 something Portuguese Grand Prix. And it's there. I believe the first one was won by Stirling Moss. So we've had a history that goes way before the 1980 Grand Prix in Estoril, just for everyone to know. So we have that heritage. How many countries can brag about that? Only maybe France and Italy, and obviously the UK. Portugal was up there. So we've had a lot of heritage in our motor racing. And even though people always kind of see Portugal as, well, a poorer country per se, absolute nonsense when it comes to the car world, because we've always had very wealthy people in Portugal. And it's all a bit not very well explained in terms of wealth in Portugal. We have a very good middle upper class in Portugal, with dozens of farms and winemakers, and we could go on all day about this. But anyway, so rallies has always been big in Portugal. Another example where Portugal actually has the best championship in the world is for the off-road championship. As the off-road championship is basically, the Dakar. Every year at the beginning of the year, you have the famous Paris-Dakar. And we used to have the Lisbon-Dakar as well. It used to start from Lisbon. So there is also, obviously there's the Dakar, like there is Le Mans, right? That's that famous 24-hour Le Mans, but there's also throughout the whole year an endurance championship. Well, the same thing happens with the Dakar. There is also throughout the whole year, you have various world championships. They're called Bajas, okay? Bajas, B-A-J-A. And the Portuguese championship is notoriously known throughout the world as the most competitive one. And that just shows you how we do have some hidden gems here in the motor racing world. So, I'll give you also another example of people that want to get into.
Well, could I just remind people that that's coming up at the end of September, and there is a special stage in Lisbon, I believe.
Yes, there is. We have so our main Bajas are actually the Baja of Porto Alegre, which is about 2.5 hours north of Lisbon, and we have one called Fronteira, the Baja Fronteira. Oh, you found it? Did you find it? Oh, excellent. You found the Portuguese Grand Prix. That's fantastic.
This is amazing. If I may, yeah, because there's a really fabulous backstory. Colin was there as well on that day. 1958, just a few days ago, 24th of August, Stirling Moss won the Portuguese Grand Prix, closing the gap in the Drivers' Championship to just 4 points behind compatriot Mike Hawthorne. The paddock was a somber place as the race was held just 3 weeks after Peter Collins' fatal accident at the Nürburgring track. Enzo Ferrari, who had also lost Luigi Musso weeks earlier, decided not to replace Collins, fielding only 2 cars for Hawthorn and Wolfgang von Trips. These are amazing names, aren't they? Hawthorn briefly led the race before Moss took control and pulled away, securing victory with Van Wall ahead of Hawthorn's Ferrari and his Van Wall teammate Stuart Lewis Evans. Do you have to have a double-barreled name to be a top motor racing driver? I wonder.
Yes.
Yeah.
Apart from Moss.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Apart from Moss.
Right.
Amazing. I was actually at Portimao for what must have been Sterling Moss's last race. He had what's called an Oscar that he raced. He was 82 at the time, I think, and he came. He retired a sort of like 3/4 of the way through because it was a 3-hour race that my brother does down there, and he finished. And I had some Portuguese friends with me. This is about 10, 11 years ago, I think now. No, maybe not quite as long as that. And he was just coming out of the car to go and talk to Susie, his wife. And I said, I went up to him and I said, these Portuguese people would like to take a photo with you. And straight away, he'd just come off after doing about an hour and a half with they gave him special compensation for wearing that hat that was in the photograph. He had that special little cap. He was the only one allowed to do it. And he's just stood there. Yeah, sure, he said. And we got a photograph of all of us and Sterling Moss.
Love to see that. Christopher, you were going to tell us more, and we'd love you to answer this question about the future of the Grand Prix in Portugal, because there's talk, isn't there, of a return. Adrian's asking the question, why is Colin shaking his head, Christopher?
Well, I'm going to be very honest with you. I'm not usually an optimist, because usually it costs around 92 million euros to bring a Grand Prix to a country. That's usually the cost nowadays, 92 million. However, it's also fair to say that Liberty Media, who own the rights to Formula One, they have been under a lot of criticism lately because they're fielding too many street circuits. They got Madrid now, they got Las Vegas, they got Singapore, Monaco, and there's just too many street circuits. And there's been a lot of other boring tracks. I won't get into all the technical side of things. There's a lot of tracks that were designed by this gentleman called Helmut Tilke, and he made these very, very boring type of tracks with his design. And the truth is, Portimao actually wasn't designed by Tilke. It's one of the few modern day tracks that wasn't designed by him. And it just happens to be a track obviously known as the roller coaster. And when we had that Grand Prix in 2021, which I was fortunate to go to, I had to wear obviously a mask and you couldn't sit next to anybody and all that, but it was still an amazing experience, of course.
Yes.
And the truth is that there are other tracks like Istanbul is in the race. And basically what the talk is now about the Grand Prix, about the Formula One championship, is that they want to have alternating championships. So certain races will come in one year, leave the next, and come here the next year, leave the next. So, and there's one thing that's very positive is that Portimao and Istanbul tend to be those two that are always mentioned as, well, let's change between those two. Then there's some others that come in, but mainly those two seem to get a lot of fan base outside Portugal, as in outside Turkey as well. So there is actually this is probably one of the best chances we've had in a very long time to generally have the Portuguese Grand Prix, because it doesn't fall into the old model where you have to just basically inject a gigantic amount of money and hope that they're gonna nitpick you out of the basket. This time it's actually more popular demand, and the fact that they don't want to see all this. Formula One is having an issue in keeping its fan base, because even though you've got the Drive to Survive Netflix series. Sorry?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the thing
I completely understand that. Novelty is too patronizing a word, but it would be a different expression of the sport, and arguably a more interesting one to complement the way all sport seems to be going into homogenized, high level, the biggest money wins. It would be a really good complement to that, wouldn't it?
It absolutely would be. It absolutely would be. So let's wait and see. However, to mention that if people do miss Formula One cars a lot, We do have 2 races annually. I'm actually going to be taking part in one of them, although not in an F1 car. But there is the Estoril Classic Festival that's going to be held in October, and then there's the Algarve Classic Festival where I will be in my championship that I race in. I'll be also there. In both those championships, we have the Masters Grand Prix, and not the official Masters Grand Prix, but we have Formula One racing from the basically the 70s and 80s. So we have former James Hunt car, former Nigel Mansell cars, former Williams from the 70s, or Ferraris, you name it. So those we have every year in Portugal. Okay, guys. So it's really good if you want to go see those 4 DFV engines, which mainly all the cars in those days were powered by, except for Ferrari pretty much, and the odd Alfa Romeo. But it was all DFVs, and they're beautiful. And like I say, in October, I don't know the dates now by heart, but if you go and check Estoril Classic Festival 2025 and Algarve Classic Festival 2025, you can see Formula One cars every year in Portugal. They might not be the most modern ones, but
but arguably the most glamorous age of motor racing.
I agree. Yeah.
100%.
And I think they're a lot more fun. They're a lot more, they have that vintage. They were already technologically incredibly advanced. When you stand next to them, it's like, my God, I mean, my racing car is still, I would say, just as advanced as one from the from the 70s and 80s, if you think about it. And mine was built 30 years later, and it's got the same technology as a Formula One car from 30 years ago. So and let's not compare obviously about modern day Formula One cars that cost $150 million each. $150 million each, slightly different. But there is a good chance that we'll have the Grand Prix. As you know, we also have the MotoGP. I know it's motorbikes, but we have the MotoGP every year in Portugal. We have the World Superbike. We have the Brazil, the Porsche Super Cup Brazil, which is actually pretty much one of the most competitive. Nelson Piquet, by the way, Nelson Piquet, not junior, but senior, is racing this weekend in the Porsche Super Cup Brazil. So if anyone wants to go see a 3-time world champion racing, he's going to be racing, and he is racing right now. I mean, I can hear them. They're they're practicing right now as we speak. So Nelson Piquet is in Estoril this weekend. Rubens Barrichello is usually at the championship. I'm not sure if he's there this weekend, but he's usually there. So, racing in Portugal has a lot of heritage, has a lot of pedigree. If anyone's interested, there's another thing I wanted to mention. We have just to finish off. If someone ever wanted to, like Colin, I'm sure you could. We have something in Portugal called the Rallies de Regularidade. So they're called the regularity rallies. And these are rallies where we have about 5 different races, rallies a year, which are 100% for amateur rally cars. They don't need a lot of, technology that are going into them. They're very inexpensive. Why they're called regularities, because you have to go at a certain speed. You have to go to an average speed. So basically the average speed is usually like 70 kilometers per hour. So it's nothing super fast. And you have a great weekend, and it's taken quite seriously. Most of these cars are almost professional rally cars. They have roll bars and they have telemetry and all that, but you don't even have to have all of that to take part in these championships. So, if anyone's really interested in doing any racing, if you want to come and try a go-kart, a professional go-kart with us, and we could even try other things. We have C1 trophies, which are small little Citroens that we can race around the Estoril and Algarve track. They're not that fast, to be honest. They have a very competitive race once you want to get into it, where there's 60 cars on the track. You have Caterhams. You have the Caterham Super 7s that also race in Portugal. We can also provide that for you. Even Ginettas in the Algarve, there's Ginettas that we can provide for you. So all I'm saying is that, to be honest, we have the possibility to just assist in providing all these for you. In terms of the Grand Prix, we'll wait and see. But there's a very good chance, I would have to say, bigger than before. So let's wait and see if that's going to happen. But, you're spoiled for choice in Portugal. I keep on saying it. Well, there you go. Freddie's confirmed. He obviously double checked, and there you go. You've got Formula One champions, Piquet, Barrichello, Fittipaldi. Yeah.
This is wonderful. A few more comments then before we conclude, and how to get involved in the way you described there. So thanks, Freddie. And that's a name to watch out for. It's a natural racing driver's name, isn't it? Freddie de Montagna there. PK, Barrichello, Fittipaldi are all there this weekend at Estoril. PK is going to do a demo with his old championship-winning Brabham. Big fan, obviously, Freddie there, of the great drivers. The Algarve Classic is a great event, says Coach Turner. You can get really close to the cars and there aren't huge crowds. I first met Colin there as well, and you can meet Colin Ross-Jones at these events. My dad, he says, used to be friends with Pat Moss, Sterling's sister, and I used to work with his cousin Roger. Always a huge fan. And just finally then, Christopher, wish I could afford to go racing. Well, you can now, can't you? That's the link on the screen to get in touch with Christopher. Racing Fury Academy. You're making it affordable, aren't you? You're making it fun, accessible. Tell us a little bit more about that, Christopher, how people can get involved and have some fun with you.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. We really made an effort because, to be fair, in motor racing, there also is, let's say a lot of the teams, whether it's in karting or other championships, they do obviously try and take a bit of an advantage of people when they think you've got some deep pockets, or they assume you have deep pockets and they want to kind of take a bit of an advantage and their margins are high. And I wanted to really work hard, and Fred and I have been working hard at precisely doing this. So that we've managed to make it extremely affordable. I mean, I'll give you just an example. If you want to race a pro kart with us for a full day, it would cost 250 euros. Now, that might be considered high in some aspects, but be honest with you, it's 50%, actually in some cases more than 50% lower than a lot of the other teams are practicing. And we really had to go hard into negotiating that with certain teams. Obviously, we have a lot of partnerships in place where, like I say, we're going to be launching this championship for international schools in October. It will be the first of its kind in Portugal, where we can have all these, foreign kids, obviously Portuguese as well, all these foreign kids that can get involved and start to aspire to a racing career at a very affordable price. If we think about it, 250 euros for you to practice the whole day in what are the fastest and most technologically advanced go-karts in the world. And believe me, they're nothing slow. You ask any Formula One driver, they will say that the closest thing that comes to the feeling of speed is a Formula One car. And I speak from experience because I race formulas, and I can tell you that even though formulas are very fast, and my formula is a very fast car, but in pro karts, because it's so everything's so nippy, you end up having a enormous sense of speed, and that's a really good thing about it. So contact us, contact us at the Racing Fury Academy on Instagram. That's our main source of contact. Christopher Kirby-Higgs is a very easy name to find online. Carl Munson knows me well as well, so
I'll point you in the right direction if you need to get into. And it's a special occasion, isn't it? It's an outlay, but you're going to have an amazing day. And I love also this idea of you taking this sport to the schools, because we've got a chap coming to Portugal, I think later on this year, who uses motor racing, Miguel Franco.
You told me about him,
he's a friend. He grew up with Ayrton Senna. And he has a business where he takes people to the track, like CEOs. High Flow CEO is the name of his company, and he uses the medium or the context of the track to teach them personal development lessons. So you can have access to that with Christopher.
Well, that's exactly it. I mean, that actually, interestingly enough, because we do have some clients in the real estate world, as you know, that's another aspect of my life, but and where there are some very, very high-end clients that come to Portugal. We had, as an example, we had the international launch of the Lamborghini Temerario, international world launch of the Lamborghini Temerario in Estoril just a few weeks ago. And why? Because Portugal is also one of the hubs, mainly Estoril. Cascais is one of the main hubs for car launches, because we have a company in Portugal called Team Quattro, and Team Quattro is always been very linked to all the German manufacturers mainly, and as you know, Lamborghini is German nowadays. So and they do all their car launches, international car launches here. Because why? Because you have all the amazing 5-star hotels and the golf courses and the restaurants and the beaches and all those coastal roads, and then the Estoril racing track and the international airport. So it's it's so much easier for them to do their launches here than any other part of Europe, practically, because of all that we have of this magnificent beauty that is the region of Cascais and Lisbon. So, but that's the thing. So, guys, we're here to obviously help, and obviously, come and see me. We're actually going to be having our next test day. Our next karting test day will be September the 14th in Fatima karting track. We will be there. If any of you are interested, obviously we need to pre-book everyone in because we only have a limited amount of driver seats. Okay, but if any of you are interested, you can contact us at the Racing Fury Academy on Instagram, and on the 14th we'll be there. If not, I will see you guys. Also, come to watch me race at Estoril or at the Algarve, and I'll invite you to the paddock, and you guys can come and enjoy a good race day. It's very accessible in Portugal to do these things. Actually, I do know, just FYI, the Porsche Super Cup Brazil this weekend, the paddock passes are already fully sold out, unfortunately, but you can still go for free to the stands and watch the races in the stands. So,
I think Colin's going to be with you in Fatima. That sounds like a wonderful offer. And also, we must mention that Portugal has an incredible network of go-kart tracks, doesn't it?
Yes. So we have probably around 30 go-kart tracks in Portugal.
Yeah, incredible.
About 30 of them. And there you go. We have a lot of history. As you know, we have a lot of racing drivers. I was very fortunate to race against a lot of Portugal's best racing drivers. And nowadays, a lot of them, not most of them, of course, but a lot of them have become professional racing drivers. As you know, we have Felix da Costa, who was the Formula E world champion a couple of years ago, and we have Albuquerque, who races in the World Endurance Championships, and we have quite a lot of other aspiring drivers that are coming up. All started in karting, of course. All started in Portuguese karting. We have a very competitive karting championship, and if any of you are ever interested about knowing where there are some good tracks, like Freddie's mentioning here, Braga is one of the best tracks. Unfortunately, not in the best of conditions at the moment, but is one of the best tracks. Used to hold the world championship in karting. Lewis Hamilton, for example, won one of his world championships in Braga. The Algarve at the moment has the best conditions in terms of karting track in Portugal. Castelo Branco, ironically, also has one of the best. We also have a new racing circuit. So we have Estoril and Portimão, but we have a third professional racing circuit in Portugal called Circuito do Sol. If you actually type Circuito do Sol, it will actually bring you. It's in a place called Serpa, so it is about 10 minutes from the Spanish border. So you have, if you go Lisbon directly east in a straight line, you will get to Serpa. It is actually a track where they've spent 20 million euros. It used to be an old, large karting track that then was abandoned for over 10 years. And then a Spanish team, they used to own a company called it's a racing car company called Radical. And they decided, okay, let's open a track in Portugal so we can do test drives for international manufacturers to come to Portugal. So we have a third circuit in Portugal now. It's still getting finished off, but it will be very interesting in the future to do track days there, because it's going to be a lot more affordable to do track days there than in Estoril and Portimão. And as Colin was saying, if any of you are interested in doing track days or anything like that, we can definitely help to set that up. Okay. And there's always ways of getting it a bit more inexpensive than other companies will probably charge you, just because of the way we've negotiated partnerships with people. But there is also that opportunity. So
we should have a Good Morning Portugal track day, shouldn't we? Let's do that. Let's get a few people together and have some fun with that. Did you know about that third track, Colin?
I didn't know about that one, no.
I've got another question for you, Christopher. We meant to finish ages ago. Sorry about this, but just one quick little kind of secret thing. If you know anything about, it's basically sort of motor racing gossip. But I heard a rumor about a private sort of a destination experience event of a track being built in the Alentejo. Do you know anything about that?
That's definitely the Circuito Sol.
Is it? Okay, because I heard something about a new build track, and instead of a golf resort, it was going to be a motor racing resort.
That's exactly it. That's the track.
Right,
yeah.
Wow,
so
amazing.
It is in the Alentejo. It's in Serpa, SERPA, and it was not everything always goes to plan, as you know, with these businesses. Basically, yes, they were going to do a club, so they have a club type let's say a club membership. They were going to, and maybe still eventually will, build a hotel, and they were actually starting to build houses right on top of the track, not literally on top of the track, but practically on top of the track, which they were selling these houses for as low as 400,000 euros. And we're talking about 4-bedroom houses with little pool, with an indoor garage, you know, underneath. And it was kind of to copy those concepts that you already have, especially in the US. I know things haven't gone very well to plan when it comes to the real estate side of that, but they have got already a lot of German companies and Spanish companies, mainly German and Spanish companies, that are already on board this whole club membership. They've now changed management to try and make it a bit more accessible, because they were being a bit difficult with the accessibility. But yes, it is basically it will slowly become a kind of club membership, instead of being a golf course, a racing track club. That's their intention. Yeah.
You need a big developer or a secret billionaire like Colin to just step in and say, look, okay, let's do this, right?
Exactly. That's
All
exactly.
right.
I think that's it. Yeah, they've run out of money. Maybe it's not really money. It was just bad management on the real estate side. But the track itself is great. I think Douglas drive
idea.
at Circuito Sol though?
He was at the Algarve circuit.
The Algarve circuit on the day it opened. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's some. These are the characters that we want at our Good Morning Portugal race day, right? It could be a lot of fun. Get Bobby O'Reilly along as well. We could have a lot of fun that day, and all you Man United fans who were mentioned earlier on. Christopher, thank you so much for being here. Obviously, you're a regular here, and if you want to say one day that you bought a house from that racing driver, Christopher Kirby-Higgs, you can check him out at the agency as well. And of course, over there at the agency, you'll see what Christopher Kirby-Higgs does when he's not motor racing. So we'll see you again in your real estate
very much.
soon. Cheers, Colin.
Great to meet you, Colin.
Are you still? Thank you, Christopher. Thank you very much. Especially because my internet connection was going in and out all the time, so I didn't have to prompt you to say anything. So thank you very much.
Making my job easy. Real pleasure to meet you. Yeah.
Colin, you're in the right place. After all that excitement, you can just have a lie down on your bed now, can't you? And,
I wish that were the case.
Have a little bit of a snooze. All right. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you again tomorrow. Cheers, Christopher. Cheers, Colin.
Thank you.
Take care. Carl Martinho Munson. Sign.
In Portugal, there's a YouTube show.